I would like to introduce Newton Neto, Global Partnership Director for Latin America and the Caribbean. He leads partnership efforts for products like search, maps, machine learning, and social impact, and many others. A big applause for Newton.
Hello. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? I can also see my colleague, Sela. Hi, Sela. Are you in Tel Aviv?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good to see you. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. My name is Newton. I'm speaking in English, but I'm Brazilian. I was born in Recife, but I live in São Paulo today. I have been at Google for 11 years, always working with product enabling partnerships, and currently, I lead a team who supports our most important products like Google Search, Google Maps, Google Assistant, shopping, travel, ads, and a few others. I'm super excited to be here today because we're going to speak about an area where I'm super passionate about, which is our mix of social impact efforts. As you can see in the screen, we have been working across Latin America to build products that really connect users with helpful, useful information. And I brought a few examples to you today. So on the education side, for example, we have been partnering with the most important museums in Latin America across Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and so on, to bring this content that used to be offline to our online platforms, including Google Arts and Culture. Who have used Google Arts and Culture in the past? Yeah, this is a product that I'm super passionate about, and you know, I love it. In time of crisis like the one that we are living today, especially on the economic side, we have been working very closely to make sure that we are helping users to find also useful information. So during the pandemic, for instance, we have improved quite dramatically our job search experience. So now users can search for remote specific jobs across Latin America. We also did a partnership with an NGO here in Brazil in order to put on Google Maps information about community kitchens, so people could go to Google Maps and find a place where they can find food for free. In addition to that, we work a lot with health organizations on the global and local level to connect users with authoritative information about health. I think everyone followed everything that we built during the pandemic to inform users about COVID, vaccinations, and so on and so forth. So we continue to invest heavily on that. On the sustainability front, we are making a lot of investments to make sure that we are helping users to make sustainable choices. I will speak a little bit more about how AI is helping us to build a better future on the sustainability front in a few. The focus of our conversation today is the suite of products that we build in order to serve our users in moments of crisis. So let's deep dive a little bit, and of course, Sela will be joining after me to do a deeper look on how AI is helping to build better crisis response products. Okay, so the Google Crisis Response mission is to support our users during moments of crisis. So when something bad is happening, people go to Google search, and they are asking questions like, what is happening? Where is it happening? How bad is it? Which actions should I take? So we built a set of alerting features across search and maps to make sure that we are helping users with responses to those fundamental questions. Let's take a look in some of them. So as part of our work in crisis response, we have SOS alerts that provides users with actionable information during crisis. Here, our goal is to raise the most authoritative content and helpful information from emergency agencies on the affected areas. This experience is activated when a crisis is happening. So we combine all those informations coming from the agents with local news stories, safety tips from the head cross, and so on and so forth. We issue those SOS alerts in moments of crisis, of course. And here in Brazil, we have been busy, unfortunately. We activated those experiences during the floodings and landslides that we saw in Brazil in early 2002, and we are seeing to some extent happening as we speak. We also have a product feature called Google Public Alerts. In this case, we partner with government agencies to issue alerts through Google Maps and Google Search. And also we send notifications to users on iOS and Android. This product feature leverages the Common Alerting Protocol, known as CAP, which is a global protocol to communicate alerts in a structured manner. So this product covers a vast array of hazards, including weather, public safety, and natural events. And we work with partners globally, including here in Latin America, where this feature is available in Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. And we are proud to have some of our most important partners in the region today at this event. I want to thank you for the partnership. Of course, that everything that we're building together is helping to save millions of lives. Also, one thing that is super important, in a moment of crisis, we want to make sure that users can see the information in a very simple and structured way. So we have been doing a lot of research to make sure that our users, when they see these experiences, it's easy for them to understand. And the bottom line here is that we use multiple types of visuals to make sure that it's when people see those alerts, they know what to do, they know what's happening. And more than that, we want to make sure that everything that we display on our products is actionable. So I want just you to focus on the screenshot on the middle of the screen. So imagine that you are planning to go from a point A to point B, and we know that there is a hazard in the way. Could be like a storm, a snowstorm, a wildfire, and so on. We want to make sure that we are alerting the users before they leave their homes, and help them to stay on safety. Google, I think if you're following tech news, our CEO Sundar Pichai a few years ago said that we are moving from a mobile first company to a AI first company, and artificial intelligence is helping us to improve a lot of our products, including our search engine. If you use Google Translation, for example, we use a lot of artificial intelligence to make sure that our translation products work quite well. And we firmly believe that AI could really benefit society broadly. And we are investing heavily in technology that can help communities to prepare for and respond for climate-related disasters and threats. So I will speak a little bit about some of the AI-powered initiatives that we are doing on the sustainability front and also on the crisis response fronts. And Sela will deep dive on a particular initiative that we're super proud to bring to Brazil. So this is an initiative that we call Green Light. We pretty much use AI-powered technologies to optimize traffic lights. How many of you got stuck in traffic and we had that feeling that was taking too much for the red light to turn into green and so on? So we are partnering with transit agencies across the globe to make sure that we are optimizing the traffic light network so people don't get stuck too much on traffic. And of course, this has a dramatic impact on CO2 emissions. So here in Brazil, we have a partnership with the city of Rio de Janeiro, and we saw major improvements. If you had the chance to be in Rio, to drive through Rio, the traffic is really bad there, and we are seeing very promising results in Rio, and we are planning to expand this partnership with many cities, not only in Brazil, but also across Latin America. Okay, the focus of our conversation today, so we are using also AI-powered technologies to enable SOS alerts and crisis response products. So 2 examples here. One is the work that we are doing on the wildfire detection front, and also on the flood alerts. I don't want to spoil Cela's presentation, so I'm just here flashing to you that we firmly believe, and we're going to continue to invest quite a lot to make sure that AI is broadly benefiting society. With that, I will stop. I will hand over to Cela, and then I will be back for questions and answers. Cela, can you hear me? Sorry, I have a final slide. Sorry, Cela. But you can stay in the screen. You can see the screen. I just wanna three key messages that I want to make sure that you leave this session with. Everything that we saw here today, I just want to make sure that you understand that we are very open to do partnerships with agencies here in Brazil, outside, globally, to make sure that we are serving the biggest number of users possible with those products. I also want to make sure that you acknowledge that clear communication and trusted communication with users is super important. That's why we continue to evolve our user experiences and so on. And as I said, we firmly believe that AI-powered technology can really be a powerful tool to help communities to prepare and respond to climate-related challenges. With that, Cela.
Okay, hi. Sorry about that delay. So thank you. Hi, everyone. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there with you physically, but I'm very excited to be with you virtually. As you mentioned, we at Google invest in a wide range of AI efforts for disaster response. But today I want to focus on our flood forecasting initiative. Our goal with Google's flood forecasting initiative is to provide accurate and actionable flood alerts for anyone who might be affected by floods globally. Our current focus is on riverine floods. So we provide forecasts for flash floods, coastal floods, but we hope to get to that in the future. Today, I'm incredibly excited to announce that we have recently launched our flood forecasting systems in 18 new countries. And those countries include Brazil and Colombia. I want to first talk to you a bit about how these systems work. Broadly, they have 3 main components. First is the hydrologic model. The hydrologic model is the component that provides the lead time that we need to know what will happen inside the river over the next few days. The second component is the inundation model, which simulates how the water is going to move across the floodplain once the river begins flooding. And that helps us understand spatially what areas are going to be affected and who needs to prepare. And then finally, the third component is our warning distribution. We want to make sure that this information reaches the right people at the right time. Let's go over these slides, these kind of components one by one. The hydrologic model that I just mentioned takes as an input various weather variables and information across the whole basin and produces a forecast of either the water level, how high river water is going to be, or the discharge, how much volume of water is going to go through it. Without a good hydrologic model, you really can't know what's going to happen in the future. And so really this is the component that allows us to provide forecasts, not just real-time data. We use a very different approach to hydrologic modeling than the classic approach. The classic approach uses what's called physics-based models or even conceptual models that try to simulate the different components affecting how the basin is going to behave, how the river is. These can be complicated, They take a lot of time to maintain and calibrate, and are not always as accurate as one would like them to be. We use a machine learning-based approach, and specifically we use a model called LSTM, which you're seeing here on the screen. LSTMs are neural networks, or a type of AI that's specially optimized for time series information. So telling us what will happen tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. And they're more scalable, more efficient, and more accurate than classic hydrologic models, as has been shown by now by many papers by multiple groups across many different climates and geographies. These models can then produce forecasts of what's going to happen in the river in a way that is probabilistic and can tell us what is the range of opportunity. We can see that these models consistently provide fairly accurate results, and even when they're uncertain, they can share that information so that whether that's individuals that might be affected or government agencies can know whether they can trust their results or not. Let me now move on to the inundation models. Inundation models really, as I mentioned before, kind of take the output of the hydrologic model and translate them into full maps, but we know in a essentially accurate way what areas are going to be affected, who needs to be warned of danger, and where they can go to be safe. We use different models that combine both machine learning with classical physics-based modeling to produce optimal results and the most accurate forecasts. You can see here an example of a comparison between our forecast, an example of our forecast, and what satellite imagery later showed actually happened. This particular image is from Manaus in the Amazonas, and this is specifically from June 2021. And what you're seeing here is in blue all the places that we predicted would be flooded and were indeed flooded. Now, no forecast is perfect, so in yellow you can see kind of areas that we thought would be flooded, but ended up not being flooded, and in red, areas that we thought would not be flooded, but the satellite detected water afterwards. So as you can see, despite not being a perfect forecast or no forecast as it is, we really provide a highly accurate picture of what areas are going to be affected. But of course, even more exciting than seeing these comparisons to satellite imagery is seeing this in real life. The picture you're seeing now is taken from a field survey that we did. This one is specifically in Bihar, India, where we did what we do not recommend other people do, and we took our cars and drove towards where our forecasts were telling us areas are going to be flooded. And as you can see in the phone, when we got there, we're standing right at where our forecast told us flooding is going to end. And as you can see around the phone, that was exactly where that flooding ended. As I just mentioned, we recently launched the system in Brazil, and we're actually now live in more than 70 locations across the country. Everywhere that we're live, we show real-time information in cases of flood. So you can see how high water levels are right now and how that has changed in recent years. In some areas, we are also able to provide forecasts of what will happen over the next few days. These forecasts, some of them are provided by CPRM, and some of them are generated by Google. Now, over time, we hope to expand these systems to more and more locations. Once these systems are in place, of course, equally important to make sure that they reach the right people. We have a few different ways of sharing that information, and I want to explore them one by one, and specifically looking at what they look like in Brazil. The real-time alerts that we send out, we first put out on search and maps. On the left here, you can see an example of what such an alert looks on search, and on the right, you can see an example of what it looks like on maps. You can find this information on search by simply searching for the word flood if you're in an affected area, and you will automatically be shown the alert. And even if you're not near the flooded area, but you want to look into what's going on in some other location where you have loved ones or you're disinterested, you can search for flood and the name of the area that you're interested in. And if indeed there is an event there, you'll be able to see information. On maps, you don't even to be thinking about floods. If you're looking on maps in an area that is affected by flood, you'll be able to see on the map an icon showing you that this area is affected. We're also working on expect notifications, actively sending smart notifications to users who might be at severe risk. This is still a work in progress, but hopefully this will be launched in the future. You can see here an example on the left in Brazil, and on the right in Colombia, where we also recently launched, of what a notification might look like and what would be a screen that you get to if you click on that notification. Finally, I want to share that we've also launched a completely new interface especially for flood information. This is called the FloodHub, and in the top right, you can see a link to that information, to that website. And this allows us to give much richer information than we can sometimes put in search. For example, here on the left, you can see what's called a full hydrograph, how the water has been changing over time, and when it exceeded levels that are considered dangerous. More and more information will be added to this interface over time, so feel free to check in from time to time and see what you can find. Finally, I just want to say, none of this would be possible without the incredible work and collaboration of CPRA. Not only do we often use their end-to-end forecast, but even when we use Google's own forecast, we rely on their data and their local expertise to make sure we're doing a good job. This project provides immense benefits to people across Brazil, but I hope it can do even more than that. I think this project acts as an incredible example for other countries and other hydrometeorology agencies for how the private sector and the public sector can work together and achieve really great things. Okay, I think that's it for me, and thank you for listening.
We have time for questions, so we have a few questions coming from the online audience that I will direct to Sela, and I think soon we're gonna be able to open for questions from the audience as well, right? So Sela, a question coming from the audience on live streaming. So the question is, what makes AI-driven models deliver better results than the classic hydrologic models?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a few advantages to AI-driven models these days. First, they've just been shown to be significantly more accurate. This is true in a wide range of different continents, climates, geographies, basin sizes, and so on. And one could hypothesize on why that is, but they allow us to model a lot of things that are harder to model explicitly, harder to know exactly how to model the basin plots. These AI models kind of infer that from the data directly. Secondly, they're more scalable. So while classic models require experts to calibrate them and recalibrate them in every basin and every year, which is challenging and expensive, these AI models can be trained once across all basins. So we use a single model, or we sometimes use a single model, to model hundreds and even thousands of basins simultaneously with no manual involvement in real time. So we can scale much, much larger. And maybe I'll finally say, I think most excitingly, is their ability to generalize across basins. So while classic models, you need to train them per basin separately, these ones, because we can train them simultaneously on multiple locations, that same model has access to a lot more data, which is really good for modeling, but B, it can then perform well even in what's called ungauged basins, in places that until now were incredibly difficult to provide a forecast for. So those are just a few of the kind of advantages that AI-based models provide today.
Great, thank you. So a second question. So what other projects are you working on to help society better deal with the impact of climate change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll mention maybe two. One is wildfire boundary tracking. So we use satellite imagery and machine learning to tell people where the wildfires are with a latency of less than 10 minutes. So kind of real-time update. And this is already launched across North America and Australia, not yet in Brazil and many other countries. Maybe a second project that I'll mention is post-disaster damage assessment. So we again use satellite imagery and AI to be able to say quickly after an event what areas were hit and what buildings were damaged. We collaborate with the World Food Program and with Give Directly, the NGO, to help send much more support and relief immediately rather than waiting days and weeks until manual operators can look at each of the buildings and identify which areas actually need help.
Great. A final question, then we can open up for questions from the audience live. So can we talk a little bit more about the partnership with the Brazilian Geological Service? You know, what each party brings to the table? What is the benefit of this collaboration model?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Brazilian Geological Service really does a lot. So first of all, we provide all the data and all the real-world measurements that are critical to drive these models, both in real time and historical data sets that are critical to training and evaluating these data. Second, I mentioned this briefly before, a lot of the forecasts that you will find on search and maps and the FloodHub are actually forecasts that CPRM are generating end-to-end on their own. So Google is just the delivery person, but all of the hard work to generate these models and make them reliable is done by CPRM. And then finally, even when we use our own forecasts, using the models, the AI-based models that I just mentioned, really CPRM brings their local expertise to validate, make corrections, and make sure that our models perform well. Google also contributes a few things. We disseminate these alerts, so we help make sure that they reach the people who need to know them immediately. We use these new AI-based hydrologic models, which in some places can improve the quality of these forecasts. And finally, we provide the inundation models, which allow translating these forecasts into full maps and make them more actionable and easy to understand and rely on.
Awesome. I just want to again take the moment and thank you for the partnership. And now, do we have mics to the audience? Any questions to me or to Sela, please? I see one hand raised there.
Thank you, Sela. This is excellent work. Just wondering if the data from the forecast is available as services outside of Google, or is this only available inside Google through the mechanisms that you described earlier?
Yeah, so we try to make as much as we can available to everyone. So the forecasts themselves, we have an external data set that anyone who wants can ask to get access to. And then you can get not only in real time all of these alerts in a computer readable way, but also the history of all the alerts we have ever sent. And hopefully that can help support additional research work and validation work and so on. We also try to make all of our models open source so that people can use them and even improve on them. So those are exist in a bunch of different papers and GitHub repositories. And I think we link to them through our FAQ on the FloodHub so that we can follow up if anyone is interested in those specifics.
Hi, and I have a question, actually two questions. One regards to the, let me say, the use of this model in data scarce regions, because you have to train the model, you need data. If you don't have data, so how do you deal with that? And the second question regards to the customization of the final products to the final users, because usually we produce like, I don't know, flood maps, maybe everybody understands, but how to translate that to the final user so the user understands and can take an action through that. I would like to know how was this process of customizing products for the final users?
Yeah, these are both excellent questions. So let's start with data scarce regions. So actually, this is, I think, one of the most exciting insights into how these AI models work. Classically, AI models, machine learning models, and data-driven models in general are more data hungry, and so they perform worse in data scarce regions. But thanks to the fact that these models now can generalize across basins, they can actually use tons and tons of data from other basins and infer, based on basin characteristics, how to apply that information in new basins. We already have papers out in HES and other top hydrology journals showing that within regions, these models perform better, even in basins where they've never seen a single measurement from there. Then classical models will perform in basins where they do have data. And we have actually even more exciting news pending. This is not published yet, but we have a lot of exciting results on even interregional extrapolation and inference. So we can now show that even in regions where we've never seen data before, we can perform pretty well using these machine learning based models. And again, the key here, because they really do rely on a lot of data, but the key here is that they can transfer those insights and transfer modeling performance across basins and even, as future papers will show, across different regions. So that's regarding kind of data scarce regions, but I really do think that's one of the most exciting things about these models. The second question was about customization of the information or the product to the individuals. And that's a really great question and a really important question. I'll say two things that we're already doing. So one is we actually rely on our partners, our governmental partners, for example, in Brazil, CPRM and others, to provide with information on what would they want to provide, what advice on what to do, and they want to provide their services. So here we kind of take a backseat to the authorities, sometimes disaster management agencies, to say what they think is the right actions to take. In addition, we want to be able to convey the kind of live dynamic information that our models produce. And as you mentioned very rightfully, that's not always easy to convey well. We're doing a lot of experimentation, including a lot of field surveys, interviewing people from many different regions and trying to customize the way we convey that information. If you move around in the FloodHub, and this depends, of course, on when there's flooding, and I think right now you won't see too many interesting visualizations. But when there's flooding, for example, in places where we can provide flood depth, you'll see we have animations of where you can see the full person, and you can see where the water reaches across their body. And that, after a lot of experimentation, we found that is understood by a wide range of people, including an extremely vulnerable populations, including ones that sometimes can't read or have never seen a map before, and so on. So this is still a work in progress. We don't think we've solved this problem yet. There are still a lot of open questions on how to convey that information, but that's an area that we're working hard on and are very excited about pushing forward in our own alert and also sharing with the rest of the world.
So my question is, has Google used any of the damage assessment modeling you talked about earlier, in addition to the hydrological maps and modeling you've talked about, again, to show how that debris from that damage can affect then the flooding risk? Because we find we're a village that maybe has the infrastructure to withstand a normal flood occurrence that occurs in that village. And I can think of several areas recently we've worked with in Portugal, where normally the Portuguese handled it fine with their post-wildfire areas that they have now after this past fire season. We're looking at flooding in multiple towns just due to the debris flow impeding waterways over the natural course. So has Google looked at combining those two models?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a great idea. This is not something we've done yet. I think in general, there's a lot of cross-pollination between these different models. And I think there's a lot of unexplored areas there. So yeah, I very much agree that that could be incredibly valuable. I think that also, right now we have a forecasting of the hazard of where we will be flooded and a post assessment of the damage. And we could also potentially in future connect, trying to create a forecast of what will be actually damaged as well. So that's another kind of connection between these models where now that we have both of them, we could drive a lot of value. But these are all things that we have not explored yet, but are worth exploring.
I think we have one more question there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you invited for the partnership for the all global scenario. Yeah, this is very good idea. Probably this service will be very free for in the recent years, in coming years. But what will be the plan for the costing? Like maybe after 10 years, maybe Google will ask for some money for this kind of service. So is there any plan for like service, like cost for the service in the coming years in Google? That's my question for you.
Okay, so to get back to the question, sorry about that. So before I talk about our plans for the future, maybe I'll just say explicitly that right now, everything we provide is free. So completely free of charge to all governments that we service. As we look to the future, I think we're committed to continuing and providing critical humanitarian information for free. We've also gotten some requests from various governments and organizations to provide extra services over and above these for paid amounts, and we are considering that. So we don't know if that'll happen in the future. If people are interested in that, it would be good to know. But I think the basic life-saving information that we want to provide, we're committed to providing for free for as long as we can.
Okay. With that, I think we're gonna close. Thank you, Stella, for joining. I really appreciate that, and thank you everybody for listening, for being so engaged on the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Newton. We make another connection from Tel Aviv to Floripa. Thank you very much. I hope you don't have a line of people trying to get your contact.